I never thought about me being talented or a musician even, you know.
Yeah.
So I never studied music, and I had all this complex, like, oh, but I don't know how to read, and I don't have musicians in my family, so I must be a bad person to play, or so I always got this lack of self-confidence about it, and then it was just more like the natural instinct to I just wanted to play, and always like music and that sort of thing.
Welcome to The Third Story. I'm Leo Sidran. You are who you are, and that was guitarist Gabriela Quintero of the group Rodrigo y Gabriela talking about that natural instinct to play music. If you're already a fan of Rodrigo y Gabriela, then you know that they're a one-of-a-kind acoustic guitar duo that hails from Mexico, but with tremendous international reach. If you've never heard of them, here's the thumbnail sketch. The two met at a cultural center in Mexico City as teenagers. Soon they became involved as musical partners and as a couple. And eventually they moved from the city to the beach community of Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo on the southwest coast of Mexico. They started playing for tips at local hotels and restaurants on the beach and developed what would become their trademark style, playing metal, fusion, and unexpected repertoire on acoustic nylon string guitars. But it was actually performing on the streets of Ireland that the two really came into their own. Gabriela would ultimately devise a unique and very ingenious style of rhythm guitar playing that borrowed from flamenco, funk, samba, a little classical music, as well as her rock and roll roots. After paying their dues as street musicians, the duo returned triumphant to Mexico with a record deal in hand and a large international following in tow. Today they play massive venues all around the world. Gabriela's technique has influenced musicians from all over, and it seems to me that she's also been a kind of spirit guide to young women around the world who want to rock out on guitar. Recently, we met in her adopted hometown of Zihuatanejo, Mexico, for a chat. When I first proposed the idea of an interview, she suggested that before we talk, I check out her local projects, including a vegan cooperative that focuses on education and outreach in the community, and a farmer's market, which I did. I checked them both out, and they were both really wonderful. We met at the location of her choosing, which was a combination restaurant and yoga studio on the beach. An auspicious choice to say the least, since my wife had just finished teaching a yoga class at that very same locale. So Gabriela and I sat cross-legged facing one another on yoga mats with the glorious surf behind us and began to talk.
I think most people in the world who know who you are would be curious and somewhat surprised to see that you really live in this paradise, very calm, very sweet place.
Yeah, I guess, because first of all, people wouldn't. There's a bad fame about Mexico, and nevertheless, Guerrero is one of the states with a lot of conflicts. So a lot of people choose to live abroad in the States or Europe. But I think that I like to live here, so when I'm willing to do a lot of things for this place and make it a really nice place to live too, you know.
I think that you have two parts of your life that have, as you say, a bad fame or a complicated fame. One is Mexico and the other is rock and roll.
Yes.
and you're kind of defying both of them by living this way.
Mm-hmm.
People have a certain expectation about the rock and roll life, and when I see you perform, there's a certain amount of intensity and a little bit of aggression in the way you play. You're very physical, you know, and in person you're a very calm person and you're a very relaxed person.
Yeah.
It's a kind of duality in your life.
Yeah, so I think what I really like about music is just the expression as it is, and a lot of the energy. And then at this moment I'm calm, but not all the time. It's just a matter of balance, I guess. But generally I have a very calming approach to things. Like after all these years, you learn a lot of things in life, and one of those lessons is just to not try to make things your own way, but let life maybe guide you, and maybe you're better off just saying, okay, flojito y cooperando, as we say it here. It's just like relax and go with the flow a little bit.
Can you give me an example of how life has provided that for you? What has happened in your life that has given you this mentality to go with the flow and let life happen?
Well, essentially, it's that I always sort of question all authority in the school and all of that, and then when you start to question a lot of things, then you realize that you can become a very angry person, because then you are not happy with things the way they are, and you are not happy with the society, you're not happy about how food is grown in the world or how whatever. So you can become potentially a very bitter, negative person, because it's very easily to go over that way. So I choose to be a happy person, but as long as I am doing something for the community, or I'm doing something for somebody else, or even for myself, for my family, or whatever, that kind of thing.
So you found yourself at some point becoming angry because you saw injustice or imperfection in the world.
Yeah. Since I was a little girl, I didn't want to go to school. I hated it. We came for holidays here, and I wanted to live here.
From the time you were little, you grew up in Mexico City.
I grew up in Mexico City, but my mom brought us here, me and my sister, to this place for holidays in the summer. Zihuatanejo and Ixtapa, and also Puerto Vallarta. But for me, it was like Ixtapa was always going on a plane, which was different. So I loved the plane, and I loved it to stay here. And I said, why we don't live here? Why people need to work? Why people need to go to the school? We can all be happy in the beach, So that's where the angriness starts to.
So you were angry when you went back to Mexico City. Why don't I live in Ixtapa?
Super angry. I said, my mom, but I need to work. I said, well, work there. But just solve it. We don't need to live in Mexico City. So that wasn't the first angriness, and I guess every little child has those things. And then as a young people, like 16, teenager kind of thing, I was just very angry. I just wanted to play and travel and not have to work, and that sort of thing. So
was the guitar or music part of that anger? Was that wrapped up in that same energy?
I guess, yes, because it was difficult times, like in Mexico City at that time. I went all over Mexico, and there was a lot of economical problems, and so my mom had suffered a lot of that economical crisis in this country. So I was just really angry about things, like I wanted to travel, or I wanted to do a lot of things, and I wanted to play. I didn't have money to pay guitar lessons or anything. I didn't have money to buy a guitar. I didn't have money to do a lot.
So what did you do?
Well, I was a good student, so I asked one guy that he was teaching, and he said I can teach. He used to teach some kids guitar, and so I could afford the first month, but the next month I didn't. So he said, I'll give you free lessons. But even like that, it was very unorganized, and even though I wanted to really learn, it was very messy. It was very, very messy.
Did you take to it? Were you good? I mean, did you feel like you had a natural ability?
No, I never felt I had a natural ability at all. I just wanted to play, and I never thought about me being talented or a musician even,
Yeah.
So I never studied music, and I had all this complex, like, but I don't know how to read, and I don't have musicians in my family, so I must be a bad person to play, or so I always got this lack of self-confidence about it. And then And it was just more like the natural instinct to I just wanted to play and always like music and that sort of thing.
What was the music that you were drawn to at that time?
When I was teenager, eventually was drawn into metal music. But before that, my mom got a great collection and a good taste. So she got all sorts of jazz, classic jazz, a lot of like good salsa, tango, classical music, rock, Beatles, Rolling Stones, all the 60s. So it was a good... That's what made me being very inspired all the time, and it just made me wanted to play and just see how does that feel, play an instrument.
Did it seem unusual at the time that you were a girl playing guitar, or were there other girls?
Yeah, no, it was very super unusual.
Yeah.
That's like no girl was interested. My sister and my friends. My cousins, they were like, they were doing something else. And then for me, it was just like the big attraction to. But I never thought about, am I going to be good or am I going to be bad? Or I never questioned those things. I just wanted to have a guitar and see how does that feel to play,
And how did it feel?
But I felt frustrated because I didn't know how to, and sometimes when I got so little lesson here and there, it was like, oh yes, but I need more, and then eventually, then I met Rodrigo, and we started playing together and figuring out things. And
my understanding is that he was having a hard time finding a guitar player that he liked.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear you say that you didn't have any sense of yourself as being an accomplished musician, and yet he chose you. He felt that you fit in with his music better than other guitar players.
Because it was essentially, he got this band, a metal band, which I wasn't part of it. And they lacked of a guitarist. The guitarist, they wanted to have another guitarist like with a long hair. I wasn't in their frame because they want to be a macho sort of band. But I knew all the tunes. I practiced all the tunes because me and Rodrigo, we played all the time on the acoustic guitar. So when he wasn't practicing with the band, he practiced with me. And for me, it was fun to learn those tunes. It was like fun to practice. So whatever, whatever. I just want to...
How much of it was fun because your musical development at that time was connected to your emotional connection with him, that it was part of a friendship and a relationship that you were forming?
Yeah, I think it was that was really good in that sense because we spent all day long together. So we had the guitars and we were very obsessive, like really obsessive to have 15, 16-year-old and been playing all day long and recording and a tape and recording it again and do it again and blah blah blah. It's very strict, as if we were going to record a serious recording, So we didn't know why we were this way.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just great because I had no school to assist or any class, and so it was just like doing something. It's just like some sort of like being productive and also challenging because learn all those riffs and it was musically challenging and all of that and the solos. So when they finally give up trying to finding the guitarist, they tried maybe 10 or 20 guys, and then none of them. Rod is very picky about pickup technique on the metal and all of that, so none of them was good enough for the job.
But you were.
Yes, I knew all the tunes, but I wasn't interested in their band particularly. Also, it was a hard decision for me because for me it was fun to learn them and practice with Rod. Yeah. But just to join the band, it was something entirely different. But at the end, I decided to say yes. I got another band. Girls' bands, we chat a lot and we practice little. And with Rodrigo's band, at least they play 4 hours straight, not talk.
Just practice.
Little break and just practice. Not talk within each other or anything, just very serious. They didn't drink or smoke. And with the girls, was a lot of drinking and a lot of, you know.
So you joined Rodrigo's band, and for a short time.
Yes, 3 years.
Oh, it's not so short. So 3 years.
Yeah.
And after that band ended,
Me and Rod ended the band. We were a little frustrated with the fact that we couldn't live from music or live playing gigs or anything. So it was working in something else and then practicing and try to find jobs that they were doing the class, like little classes to little kids and that sort of thing. So it was just at some point it was just facing the truth. We're not gonna make it. We tried to be famous and make ourselves our own photos and our own press kits and try to be our managers. And then we said no, we don't like. Why do we want to be famous in the first place? So we just stop that nonsense and go to Cihuatán.
So this was your dream from when you were younger.
Exactly. And Rodrigo's too. He always liked to go and live somewhere else, and he said okay. Well, he got a good job at that time at the Canal 11. He was producing some music for some programs, and he earned good money. But and everybody said, "Oh, you should keep this job. This job gives you security. Don't leave it." Blah blah. And then we said, "Fuck that." Just
So that was a moment when, certainly for him, but for both of you, you could have decided to kind of compromise. Because living, Canal 11 is making music, he's still writing music. It's not like he's driving a truck or something. I mean, he's making a living from music, but it's not exactly the music that he was hoping to make.
And he had a boss. He belongs to this company. And that's why Rodrigo didn't like that equation. And to me, it was, instead of me saying, yeah, no, you should keep this, I said, fuck that, let's go, just quit. What are we going to do? And I said, well, we can take the guitars, and even though we were metal players, we are skillful enough to play nice things on the acoustic. And I thought, people is gonna like if we play Eric Clapton or whatever of those. People is gonna like it
acoustically. If you play
acoustically, exactly, with a version of and on the two guitars, and I thought we can make a living and forget about the band. We can make a living and we can do our own versions and play music, and then eventually travel the world doing the same. But how are we going to blah blah?
This is what he said to you.
Yes,
how can we do it?
How are blah blah? And it was just this situation. And then I said, if you stay, this was maybe in April, and then we say, okay, if you quit, let's wait till November, because then the company is gonna give you good money if you quit on that time. And he said, no, if we leave it, I quit today. I said, okay, well, quit today. And we quit.
And you moved here.
We moved here, without knowing anybody. And so the first month or first 2 months, we did nothing. It was just going to the beach. We spent all the savings we got. And Rodrigo's a big football fan, so it was the World Cup. And it was like, I'm not gonna work. I hated when I used to work and I couldn't see, or when I go to school. I never seen any World Cup, every single match. This time I'm gonna see every single match. So he saw every single match and program about that. So we didn't work.
So it was like really the greatest example of living your dream. We're gonna, to our fullest, we're gonna watch every match, whatever we never get to do. We're gonna watch football. We're not gonna work. We're gonna live at the beach.
Exactly. We would rent a little apartment, and it was just like
total freedom.
Yeah, whatever. You know, something's good is gonna happen. Something's good is going to happen.
Did you feel that?
Yes, I felt it, but also felt that when we ran out of money and the World Cup was over, It was like, dun, 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 dun. But we said we are not going back to Mexico City, and we're not going to work in any work except playing the guitar. That was the big commitment.
Dun, 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 dun. The big commitment, the real risk, whatever, man, we're free. Gabriela and Rodrigo took a leap of faith and moved to the beach. But when the World Cup was over and the dust settled, they realized that you can't live on love alone. So what next? How did they go from magical thinking to Madison Square Garden? Like so many great artist creation stories, this one involves a pizza joint and a tip jar.
Do you think you would have ever made a decision like that for yourself if you hadn't been part of this team, this had a partner to do it with?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
That's part of who you
yes,
are.
I was fearless. I was encouraged. Rod, he's more, at that time, he was more sort of cautious. Oh, but how are we going to do this? And I'm like, we'll find out. We'll figure this out. And I'd always been very, very, like, try get things, and in a nice way. I never liked it to be an asshole or something like this, but always trying to make my way, and especially avoid the things that I hated the most, which was to work in an office job or whatever with a schedule and a boss and all of those things, and said I'm going to avoid that situation.
What did your parents do?
Well, they were just so scared because my mom was like, where are you going? And Rod's mom too, they were like, why are you going to? No, it's the same job. Rodrigo's going to keep the same job, but there in the beach. And they're like, that doesn't sound very credible.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
No, not at all. And then we start to ask every single hotel if they wanted musicians, and no. And the next one, no. And the next one, no. Every single one said no. And then said, but yes, but some of those that should say yes, they haven't even seen us play, So in one pizzeria in Ixtapa, one pizza place, the guy said, yes, but I can't pay you. The only thing I can offer you is a pizza and a cup, so a cup like this, so people can put you tips if you want to. And we said, yes, we want to. We're going to do it. So we're very, very professional. She said 45 minutes, then a break of 15 minutes, and then 45 minutes. And we started with no people. There was Ixtapa was empty. It was just, so we were just practicing the pieces we were going to play. But at night there was always people that always gave us something, and that was great. It was just like the biggest success stories that I felt we were living in.
Yeah.
Because the action of me playing and get something back. The pizza and the place, and get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
And from this place, other places saw us, and they're like, oh. So,
and do you still have a relationship with this pizza guy?
I haven't seen him. The pizza place is still there, but he's not there. So I don't know. One day I should thank him because he was very, very good. And also, Fontan Hotel.
Yeah.
Those guys, they opened. They said yes. It was a lot of work there. A lot of work.
Did your sound change during that period when you were developing this? What did you discover about your music acoustically when you came here? How did it change?
But I think because we picked originally cover versions that we liked, but also people liked. There was it wasn't not just metal music, but maybe some Brazilian bossa nova or something. But those are very challenging to play, so it required us to practice a lot. To practice every morning at 10. We both were just perfectly ready to practice at 10 a.m. every single day. So we practice for hours. And for metal music, which is a lot of work and whatever, but the acoustic guitar is another world. So just playing acoustic on those bossa novas or anything else, and we don't read music, so we had to
Use your ear.
Use our ear and figured out how to play it. And then it was the rhythm missing, the rhythm missing. And then because I love flamenco, and I know those flamenco guys, they do a lot of rhythms and they can sustain a lot of the rhythms. So for me, it was like, if I can only knew a little bit of those.
It's interesting because I know you always correct people when they suggest that you play any kind of flamenco. You say, we love flamenco, but we don't play flamenco. But your right hand is essentially doing the rasgueo, the rumba rasgueo.
It's another rasgueo, but it's not the rumba rasgueo. It's very different because
tell me.
I was trying to figure out the rumba rasgueo, which I have never ever been able to figure that out. And some guys have taught me.
With three fingers.
It's a rasgueo, but for some reason it's never happened. I can't play it.
So you found a different way.
I found several different ways, and I always fail to copy the flamenco thing.
So in failing to discover how to play flamenco, you uncovered your own technique.
Exactly.
And it's incredible to me, when you talk about how you didn't feel like you had natural talent initially when you started to play, because if you look, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't care to know it, but on the internet it's filled with the Gabriela triplet and the Gabriela Ras, and people have tried to discover how you play it and teach each other how to do it. It's become a technique that people study.
That's great.
your kind of accidental technique has become something that other people are trying to figure out.
Yeah, which is great. It is a way that it is especially the rasgueo that keeps a rhythm like this.
Yeah.
That's the one that I've never seen anybody playing it. And it's very handy for musicians that they can't afford a percussionist like we did. Yeah. So you can play your own music with a beat. And
so you found a way to keep a beat and also fill in the chords in between.
Yeah, chords and lines and everything. So you never lose that tempo.
Pulse, yes.
Exactly.
And this is what you discovered when you moved here. This is what you developed here.
Not completely. I started and it was very, very hard because trying to play those rhythms that I imagined the way they should play, they sounded horrible. And Rod said, no, you should play with the pick again. Take the pick, don't. And I'm like, no, it's really stubborn. I said I felt that if I do it properly at some point it was gonna sound good, but at the beginning it sounded horrendous. But I just stick to my guns. And when we went to Ireland and we came to play in the streets in Dublin, we got all those cover versions, and we also got the Metallica cover versions and everything. But we played the Santana, Oye Como Va, and all of those. But at that time, we started to come up with new little riffs or new melodies, especially Rodrigo with new melodies. And we covered a guitar duo called Strons and Farah. So those guys are very good, it's very difficult to play. So we got one cover we used to play here, and that made us being better guitar. We had to practice a lot in order to play that tune, their cover.
Yeah.
So when we went to Ireland, we got all these melodies and they started to come up with all these rhythms, and we started to play them in the street, and people was like, wow, that makes it like something that people was like, what's that? What are you playing? What is this? La la la, it just makes a good impression. We said we should keep doing more of that.
Based on, and it's interesting too that when you left Mexico and you went to Ireland, it seems like it was the first time that you really saw people respond to you as something really different and special and want to know what it was.
Yeah.
How did that change your perception of what you were doing? Like, it wasn't just to make tip money anymore. You realized, we're really doing something that people care about.
Yeah, it was essentially, I guess, our culture here it can be sometimes a little discouraging. Like if somebody is doing something, it's like it's not very convincing. There's no much encouragement.
Yeah.
And we find when we started to play here, we got a lot of people from the States and from Canada. And they were like, "Oh, you guys are amazing!" And I thought, "No, we aren't." I thought we aren't. But the simple fact that someone is telling you all these things every single day, every moment, it was like, I guess, played a good part of being confident enough to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And happy enough to say, well, at least they like it, you know? At least I like it. But in Ireland it was different because it was the same. Wow, you guys are amazing, blah. But we were doing our own music. So that's what
Not just
changed.
covers, but your original music.
Exactly.
Interesting. Did you have big aspirations? Did you dream of playing in big music festivals, of scoring films, of selling lots of records? Or what was your dream at that time?
Not dream at all, because our dream was made come true when we came living here in the beach and playing music. That was a dream come true. Not to have to work in anything else, but get in really early in the morning, go to the beach at 6 a.m., swim, and then go back and play. You know, just very simple life. And that was the dream come true. And at night, we played more, and we met people. And so, for me, I was afraid to have big dreams and expectations, because we had a lot of that with the band.
Uh-huh.
So for me, it was just like going to Europe and get to know the people, and the place, and learn another language, and another music, and just the I don't know, the curiosity just to go out, you know. And there was this wonder and the cultural shock, everything. So all those dreams, no, I didn't have them at that time. If someone came to me at the time and said, "Oh, you know, you guys can do this," I would say, "No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it."
Not I don't want it, but I don't believe
Exactly, I don't believe it, and I don't care. Because at the moment, I feel so happy right now playing in the streets.
Yeah.
It was like, after we play in the streets, it was such a powerful human experience that I felt almost like the Buddha, you know, like illuminated, like, oh, all the world is perfect in this moment, you know.
So how have your dreams changed, and how has your feeling about what you do changed then? Because if you felt like the Buddha just when you played in the street, I mean, now you play for a lot of people, and you have a different relationship with your fans. They have a much different relationship with you than they did originally. How has your perception of what you do and what you want changed?
Well, my perception always is to keep myself with this flame that I discovered in Ireland, that in the streets, that it was just feel right in the moment, like really zen, and just giving what you are supposed to give, which is just play. Just keep that always. And it's great that all this success happened, and a lot of people love the music, and a lot of good, successful stories came out of that. But I always come back to the same source, which is to live in the beach, get up in the morning, go to the beach, and go back to play. You know, just grab the guitar and start working on it.
Is it difficult to maintain that point of view as your career has unfolded, or has it been easy?
No, it's difficult because we have a lot of compromises, and now we have to do visas and things like that are super boring, and I have to go to the accountant and have to look at schedules and agendas, which are pretty bad doing those things. I particularly don't like that part of the job, but it needs to be done. So for me, the greatest life is the one that I can live here, you know.
Gabriela Quintero on living the greatest life possible. Folks, for me, living the greatest life involves sharing these conversations with you. You can hear all of the episodes by visiting third-story.com, or you can download them on iTunes. Each of these interviews is like nourishment for the soul, at least for me. I love hearing people talk about the risks they take and how by embracing their shortcomings, they developed into something unique, like Gabriela's playing. But sometimes the best nourishment is actual food, and Gabriela has devoted a large part of her life to spreading her ideas about plant-based food to the community she lives in.
You seem very rooted in this community. You seem like you have almost a second life as somebody who's active locally. I mean, since I've been here, I've seen two kind of projects that you have. One is a vegan cooperative, the other is a farmer's market. This is you contributing something to this community. You know, when you first came here and you described what you loved, it was just the freedom of living on the beach and sort of having no responsibility. But at some point it seems like you did start to feel a responsibility to this place.
Originally it was this hippie idea of just live in the moment and go to the beach and just play guitar and all of that. But then you come up to realize that the world is as beautiful as it is. It's a travel place, and it needs a lot of work. And this place had different eras, and at the moment there's a really good vibe going on. But at some point it was a lot of things, bad things happened here. There was a lot of violence at some point. A lot of people was scared. A lot of normally the tourists, they always came in, they stopped coming in.
Yeah.
There was bad things, and there's a lot of people like me that lived here and loved the place. They went to live in San Francisco. They went to live somewhere else, and
Did you ever
I didn't want to. No, I said no, because this is where we, the people that live here, we make the place a good place to live. And if we are scared, we contribute with the fear. And we made this fear being very strong for some reason. I don't know how to explain it scientifically, but I think if we people are brave enough and we stay here and we start doing things and sharing things that we've seen, especially me, or people like me that we travel a lot and we see other communities, and we've seen communities that had been badly historically in a bad economical situations, and now they're great because of the same people who was doing things. Mm-hmm. And in this country we have all the time they complain about government or someone else is the blame, is the one to blame. And certainly government has a lot of things they need to do, but I think the governments and politicians, they will change if the people will start changing too. If the same citizens start to do things for one another. And I think in Zihuatanejo at the moment there's a great community from people that from different parts of the world that we adopted Zihuatanejo, and we want to make a difference. We want to make this Zihuatanejo an ecological destination,
Mm-hmm.
Really ecological destination.
And this is in some ways connected to your relationship with veganism or vegetarianism
Yeah.
and food, right? This is one of the places that you started.
Yes.
You told me the other day, this is also somewhat surprising, as you say, like rock and roll, heavy metal. It's a very aggressive, masculine feeling thing, and you wouldn't expect that there would be this current of vegetarianism running through it. But you said you never ate meat, and that Rodrigo lives a vegetarian or a vegan lifestyle as well?
He's a vegan lifestyle, and he started a few, maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And I started all my life. So
You never ate meat?
I never ate meat or shrimps or anything with eyes.
Nothing with eyes?
Oh, nothing with eyes. And a few years ago, I became vegan, maybe 10 years ago. Vegan. So I truly believe that even though I know vegan is a word that it's associated with the things you can't do or you should not do, and it has been it has a bad fame, the word. And to me it's a little different. I try to explain people here that it is about how you can include more things into your life, and if including things even in your way to see life. You start to include in a mentality that accounts for everything. It brings a lot of joy into your life, and I wanted to share it because people ask me sometimes if we are running or we are in a class, in the yoga class. A lot of people ask me, how did you have all this energy? What are you drinking and what? And everything is started from there because people ask me, what do you do? And the people that hangs around with me, they notice I never take medicines, or I never have pains or anything. I'm very, very, very healthy.
Yeah.
So people ask me, how did you do this and how do you do that? And I'm supposed to drink this, and maybe you want to include more of these foods and eat whatever you want, but essentially include more of these. And naturally people, when they start to do those things, they start to see there's a connection, a deeper connection between what we eat and what are we reflecting as a society in all levels.
And is that a conversation that in Mexico people are comfortable having or familiar with? Is that a conversation that was common, or do you think that you started to have that conversation here that people hadn't had?
I'm very careful with what I talk about it because I think respect is incredibly important. And unfortunately, sometimes this movement has a lot of judgment and making because it's a taboo theme. It is a taboo. It said, can we look at our plates? Can we think how ethics works on the way we eat and on the way we produce food? And that's a taboo completely. You better off talking about homosexuals something like that instead of saying food. And what I try to do with my organization here is go a little further than normal veganism, but asking where does this tomato comes from?
Yes.
Or who picked it? Or did we pay a good price for it? And all of those things.
Not just where did this meat come from, but where is all of your food coming from?
All the foods.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes it all inclusive. And you just go to your garden, if you make your own food, if you grow your own food, that's something that everyone can relate it to. Even a carnivoric super chef, you know.
When I saw the vegan cooking class at the Cooperativa the other day, one of the things that I really felt was that there was an enormous respect on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the experience. You had teachers who were, with total respect, explaining how you could make vegan food, and this is how you can, this would substitute this, and this is a way that you can prepare food. And also that you have to have a respect for what you put into yourself.
Exactly.
And I also saw enormous respect from the people taking the class, and they really appreciated being exposed to this or having an opportunity to know about this. I think it's interesting, particularly in a country, in almost any country that isn't an immigrant country like the United States or a lot of South America, where you have a very strong tradition with food here. Some of it goes back to pre-colonization. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. And trying to redirect that relationship also has large cultural implications for the way people think about themselves and what food means to them. This is a kind of a stretch, but I feel that you have a mentality in general that is about including and bringing together different elements. I've heard you talk about your music also and saying, all I want to call my music is fusion. I just want to say that we play music that comes from all of these influences.
Yeah,
and I'm
no borders.
No borders. And I'm hearing you say the same thing about the relationship with food or even veganism, which is to say, let's not talk about this as a limiting thing. Let's talk about this as an inclusive thing.
How can we expand and maximize absolutely everything? Our systems, ecological systems, our oceans, the sustainable, like all of the things that they've been traditionally in this country, like astronomy, as you said. If we go back to pre-colonic times, we'll find that it's a culture based in plant-based foods. If you ask by definition Mexican food, you have to talk about chile, cacao, chia, aguacate, watermelon, and all those foods are based in pumpkins come from Mexico too. So all of these foods are there and emblematic for all the indigenous cultures. And it was when the Spanish conquerors came in that they brought in all the other foods, and they make this fusion, what we call in different parts of the country Mexican cuisine. And so our proposal is not only gastronomical, but it has the implication of nutritional value as well as being at the service of the environment and also of good health without thinking that they're going to give up their beautiful recipes. And in Mexican food, what it gives the flavors is the plants. And everybody can agree. If you ask, what is the secret of tacos al pastor? Is a marinade. So if we marinate another foods, people love them and they're not happy. Then we have another crisis in this country that is terrible, that is diabetes, heart disease, and all of that. So people come along to the classes and say, please help us. Please, we're sick. Please, blah, blah, blah. And they come to the tianguis and get our foods and they're happy. So it's something that we can offer instead of judging and criticizing and just being preaching. And I bring a lot of vegan chefs from Mexico so they can, and they're like, well, we need to say this. And I'm like, no, you don't need to say any of that, because what we try to say is all the positive things about it, not all how we are destroying the planet. We try to say, how can we preserve life in all its forms? And this is what it makes fun about it, and the people liked it, and they love to come and say, oh, I love your tamales. They don't say vegan tamales, but we should say they're vegan. So like, I try to always change everything.
And yes, whatever you're doing, you're trying to change it.
Exactly.
So what is your relationship like with the global vegan community then? I mean, this seems very local and rooted in your life here and the community here. Do you feel that you're also part of the global vegan community?
I don't know. I love to meet more people, but I think vegans, we agree in just one way. We like to keep animals safe. That's our main thing. But the way we're gonna translate into society, to our friends and to our families and people we love, is where we differ, and we can have a lot of problems. And that there's a lot of groups there, they fight with one another. And my proposal to all of them too is, can we do something that inspire people instead of imposing? Can we do a good service about making people comfortable and asking you, oh, maybe the doctor said I should not eat egg. Can you recommend some recipe? Like in a very friendly way, and not try to convert them, because that's way too much for people, and we don't achieve absolutely anything. Locally, I think every single person that is in the same frame mind as I am, it needs to look at their own community and see what are the real solutions for each person and for each people here. Have the ocean, so they love fish and they love fishing, but they've been lately highly affected by big fisheries. And so the species in danger are the fishermen, because they have to go, they're dying. They have to go every day, far away, and also there's a lot of toxicity on the fish. So there was a study here of the mercury levels in young women. There were like maybe 50 girls, and one of them was no mercury, and she said she never eats fish because she doesn't like it. And this is one of the things that we can say, instead of having only any meal that has no nutritional value, this is where we can help them. Say, well, you can do this, and
Yes.
with 20 pesos you can feed your kids, your husband, and yourself,
Yes.
and in a fantastic way, So just bring the solutions.
How do you think continuing to live here has affected your career?
But I guess because this place is such a beautiful place, it keeps anybody inspired. And recently I went to the mountain, La Sierra, for the first time, and it is a magical place. Like the trees there are enormous. It's a tropical forest, and I love to go there and take my guitar and stay there and play. And it keeps you inspired. It keeps you with a lot of driving force to do things and help people. And, it's very inspiring. It has a lot of energy. That energy that you feel it in the inside. And I guess that probably, I believe that every single experience we got in life, it has to affect us in a good way and a bad way.
Yes.
Staying inspired with Gabriela Quintero. I hope this experience is affecting you in a good way. What is the balance like between her community projects and her music? If she had to choose, what would she do? How has her musical relationship with Rodrigo changed now that they're no longer a couple? All of that is coming up. After I remind you that at third-story.com you can subscribe to the podcast, leave me a message, sign up for the mailing list, or just hang out and check out previous episodes, including conversations with other innovative guitar players like Charlie Hunter and Steve Kahn. And now, final thoughts with Gabriela.
You described the early days with Rodrigo of waking up and playing and arguing about the technique and what are we going to do, and really this intense involvement with each other and the music and the process. Today you don't live that same relationship together. How has that changed your relationship with the music, your music?
Well, it's certainly much better because nowadays we can focus on the music. And before that, we've been very stubborn, and when we both had the same idea, works fantastically. The problems starts when we both have different ones, and that's where the problems start. So me and Rod, we are like a brother and sister, and we're like a family.
Yes.
And so we can still play together, and I think much better because we're more mature now and less aggressive to one another as we were young. And
it's very unusual. It must be very special and complicated and wonderful to have had one primary musical relationship for your whole adult life. Do you ever play music with anybody else?
Not professionally. I have played with a lot of musicians.
And what does it feel like?
It's great. I love it. And I think one of the incredible things about music is when you find somebody that makes it speak the same energetic language with the music.
Yes.
It's fantastic. But professionally, I think Rodrigo and myself, we have a lot of still musically and professionally, we're still very like one another. So we speak the same language, and we can just really go really fast. There is some really good energy between us and playing music. And music saved us for so many years to both of us. Otherwise, we would say like, what, I won't see you again. But me and Rod, we always played. And even if sometimes we argue about stupid things, there was moments in our lives like they were incredible. Like one time we were in a city in Europe, and it was just snowing. It was really cold and dark, and we were like, ugh. And we were arguing about, for sure, a stupid little thing like you said yes and I say no, something like this. And this guy, like a homeless, came in like really crazy. He was talking to the air, and he came and he screamed at us and said, "You two shut up and play. And that's what we did. Because we got the guitars and we sort of play. And that sort of thing happened to us a lot of, many times. And it was just like, okay, well, life says
we should play
and shut up. So stop the arguments and just play,
I heard an interview with you, you've made a couple of records where I think you've made an effort to return some of the energy that's been given to you back to the people who have influenced you. Mm-hmm. So you made a record that was dedicated to the musicians who influenced you, and then you made another album that was dedicated to just people who influenced you or who you appreciate.
Yeah, their works.
Their works, exactly. And I think, for example, to dedicate a song to Harriet Tubman or to the Eastern European Jewish writer
Viktor Frankl.
Yes, Viktor Frankl, exactly. These are like very interesting choices. But I heard an interview with you and Rodrigo where you said, well, one series of arguments that you had was, well, who should we thank? You could agree that we want to give something back and say thank you, but who's it going to be? We have so many people that
And there was just selection, which it was just 9.
Yeah.
And I said, but you should have some women there because there's only guys. And so I picked Leonor de Aquitance, which was a queen from the Middle Ages.
Yes.
Who was a very powerful woman in an era where women were not powerful at all and they were powerless.
Yes.
And this woman was a warrior. She went to war with full gear and everything. And also she was a queen that loved art, music, poetry, and she was a literate herself.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
So, and she got this salon, which is La Salle de Pas Perdu, where all the writers and she was putting money for all of this art to happen. And I think that was very powerful that I wanted to dedicate to that particular action. Mm-hmm. And the other one was Inés de la Cruz, Sor Juana.
Yes.
And she was another genius woman in a time where women weren't allowed to go to school. Yet she learned how to write and read at the age of 4 on her own. She was like totally a genius. And that's not like I'm a feminist, but I kind of like to keep the yin yang. So I wanted to put some yin yang into the 9 Dead Alive thing. And then the other track that I suggested, it was a tribute to animals and nature, was Torito.
Yes.
Which is something that is said like a call that we can all make this world definitely a much better place to live for everybody. And if we want to do that way, we have to include the other species too, and live in accordance with that. And a lot of people said, yes, but what are you going to do with people that live up in the mountain and they live from the animals? And I said, essentially, our call is for people that live in the cities. They have zillions of choices, that we can all start a garden, communitarian garden, that we can all grow our own foods and things like that, It's more like into that things that maybe just change all
thinking.
That. Exactly.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility now that you have a louder voice, that people are listening to you, to try to encourage people to think about these things, not just when they buy a Rodrigo and Gabriela record to listen to the music, but also to think a little more deeply about these other questions?
Yes, because I think it's a good position to be in this position. You can access to more people. So I would do it. I try to do it always with respect, because I know not everybody is into that, and not everybody is like, it's not their call. And also because in other groups they try to do those things and they felt like, oh, this is way too much. So it wasn't the right way to approach it. In these organizations like non-profits and that work with kids and with a lot of different issues, we tend to get a little impatient and say people don't care and all of those things. But in reality, all people care. That's the good news. It's just most of the time we don't have access to see those things, and with lack of empathy sometimes to just put yourself in the position to be in the place of this woman or that other person. But most of the people is good heart people, and they like to do things, but it's not easy to help.
No, and it's interesting also because, you know, you play instrumental music. People have a certain relationship with the music that they listen to, an expectation of what your role is in their life, you know, and you're actually potentially playing a different role, not the one that they expect.
Exactly.
You know? They expect to see some virtuosic guitar playing. They're going to project whatever they project onto the screen, you know.
Exactly.
But what you're delivering back is a little bit different.
Exactly. So I'm not going to go and talk about how many millions of animals died a day and all of those things.
Right.
But what I can say is I can play, and then afterwards, if someone is interested, we have maybe some, I don't know, some little talk, or maybe a link, or maybe we invite an organization that was part of that gig that night. We can sign some posters and take photos, and that way people that is truly interested, they're gonna come, and that's what happens. People come and say, oh, hey, I heard you I do this, and blah, 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 so we interchange things.
And the community grows.
Exactly, and the community grows.
So I know that you have to go and record something.
Yeah.
But I just want to close by saying, or asking you, at the beginning you told me that your dream was fulfilled when you moved to the beach and made a living from music. Do you have a secondary dream now? I mean, what do you hope for now? What do you hope for your life and your career now?
In my life and my career, I hope, honestly, that I can merge all my projects, including the Ecotianguis, which is the farmers market, and it's a symbol of the full community as it is, with in my other projects, with my career, so it can really makes a difference, and inspire people to join us in their own way. So in 10 years' time, this Iguatanejo will be fully transformed. There will be an example for another Mexican cities. They can just say, oh, they did it really cool, so we can do it, you know?
If you had to choose between your music career and your project in Zihuatanejo, would it be a difficult choice for you?
No, I always choose music. I started doing this, the community and everything else because no one else was doing it. But I really hope that someone else takes it, and then I'm like, oh, great, I can play, and that's what people say it's here. Don't give away your recipes. They're gonna say, oh no, let them copy us, so that we have more options.
Yes, right.
I don't have to work on that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work there, you know. To have an organization is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I wish I have more time for my music and play and perform. That's what I hope for. That transforming also.
Do you see yourself also as a part of the global music community?
Probably. I like to kind of maybe start an organization that brings musicians together at some point, you know, because we don't know each other. We haven't got the opportunity. We're all too busy touring and doing this, and all of a sudden everything is too important. And I think what will be great maybe in this place, in a place like this, is to do music and see what happens with other artists. Like I have some friends, they're good musicians and they're famous enough, but they come here and they like it, and I take them to different communities and we play and we do things like that, you know.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, thank you so much for that. It was a nice surprise to do this podcast. I've seen it online. It's fantastic, and it's a good. We're making a good team, you know.
Yes.
You're doing all of these things too. It's fantastic. Thank you so much,
Gabriela. Thank you so much.
There it was, sitting on the beach with Gabriela Quintero of Rodrigo y Gabriela. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you soon.